Hey, Ali.
Hello, Madelaine. How are you?
I'm good. I'm okay. Thank you. How are you going?
Yeah, a bit similar to you actually. Just getting over a nasty cold flu that, yeah, we just haven't in the family been knocked by something like this in a while. So yeah, just
Mm,
on the other end.
yeah, yeah. But you're feeling okay? Like we spoke
Mm,
about before, if you need to mute yourself and have a little bit of a cough, that's totally fine.
cough.
It's all this
Thank
stuff is going
you.
around at the moment, so I totally
I
understand.
know.
Yeah. But I'm glad
Mm,
you're here.
thank
And
you.
sometimes, being in a space or in a different state because we're unwell or something like that, it can sort of add a another flavor to the call as well and bring other things up that,
Mm,
we may not have brought into the conversation otherwise. So let's see what happens today and see what comes out of our call today.
mm, yeah, sounds good.
So, what's happening with you right now? Where are you at right now, right this minute?
I think what you said then was very relevant in terms of, yeah, the state that I'm in. Um, I I mentioned it in like my kind of mastermind group this week that a challenge has been being sick, and similar to what you said, just navigating that in terms of obviously the evolution that I'm going through and the growth. Just surrendering when you're sick, like it's made me realize for so long, and I talk about this a lot on my socials, like showing up as me of like for so long you're just in this kind of hustle or go 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 that we tend to just not tune into our bodies as much, and I'm really trying to embody that now, obviously with all my learnings and seeing obviously suppressed emotion and just suppressing anything that comes up for you. Yeah, I've had a really big challenge in the last fortnight with my daughter being so sick, and I've always been fearful of like, fuck, I can't get sick. Like, there's so much to do, and you can't be sick as a parent because you've got to look after this sick child as well. There's no stopping. Like, it's just that mindset of there's no stopping. And I did end up falling ill from Eden's flu, and just, yeah, I was battling between that, continuing to force things. Like, I love to start my day with going to the gym, like that just sets me up, that movement in the morning, and then coming home and doing my meditation and journaling, or before Eden gets up. And I really struggled with the fight between in my head of like, oh, just go, it'll probably make you feel a bit better, but like my gut was telling, like my body was saying, no, you need to just stop. So yeah, just like actually sitting with that, probably the first time ever when I've been sick, and surrendering and feeling uncomfortable in that surrender, like knowing that it's good. But yeah, it was very uncomfortable to just kind of force myself to rest when that to-do list is always there.
Mm, mm.
Mm.
So what happened when you did take that time out, or could you take that time out? Were you able to?
Yeah, yeah, and it got to Saturday, and I took myself to the gym, and I shouldn't have, but I was like thinking it's going to be wet all day, like we're going to be locked inside, Eden's still unwell, just that perfectionist kind of going in my head. And I got myself to the gym, I had the sorest throat, pushed through, and then it came home so achy. And my husband Locke was home, so I was like, this is my day, to get my study done and like liaise with some case studies and whatnot. And I was just like, in turn, like I just felt myself saying, no, you just need to go and lay down. And yeah, something that I wouldn't normally do, especially since moving into motherhood. Like, we've been sick a few times, and it's like been the end of the world, because I'm like, I've still got so much, so much to do, and everyone needs me. And yeah, I just did. I went and laid down for a few hours, read a little bit, slept a little bit, and upon reflection, it was the best thing I needed. And it allowed me to, show up the way I want to for my loved ones as well after. And they really honored that time too. Like, I feel I always put blame on my daughter of like, she won't let me rest, like she always needs me and everyone needs me, but they just gave me my space, knew that I needed it. And it was, like I said, it was very challenging to just sit there and let myself do it. But I reaped the benefits after it.
So this is an unusual thing for you, right? Taking that time. When was the last time you did that before? Just recently?
Really good question. I obviously am embodying a lot more of my self-care practices, like mindful moments throughout the day, meditation every morning, journaling, breath work. But to actually just sit and rest, something that, or even just to create space to rest. Do you know what I mean? I think we've spoken a lot, you and I, about there's this like block of me being creative, and this course has really like opened my eyes of that, but what creatively means to me, and like allowing space in my week for things to drop in terms of that creativity. That's a really good question. Like, I can't remember the last time, like I sit at night, and read, but just to sit there and rest and like just be, never.
Yeah, it's
I
interesting,
can't
right?
remember the last time I did that.
Yeah. Yeah, because it's quite interesting, isn't it? Because I mean, I know that you know what to do, as in, the breath work and the meditation, like you have all the knowledge around how to look after yourself, because you're very intelligent and you have lots of knowledge. But there could be a difference in between knowing what to do and actually doing those things that are good for me. That's what I need to do because it's good for me, and actually taking time out, like actually being present and allowing yourself to just surrender. Like you said the word surrender when we started the call. It's an interesting word, surrender. Like, can you feel, is there a difference in between taking time out, doing your routines, doing your self-care stuff, and surrender for you?
Definitely. I still feel like doing my routines, and self-care rituals, it's still like routines. Yes, I see the benefits in my self-care and my habits, but like you said, it's you said it there, is like the knowledge is there and the awareness and like the conscious mind of the purpose of it and the benefits of it, but in terms of embodying it, I'm not there. And I want to be so much, but it's always a challenge for me, is the balance between that masculine and feminine and that control. And we talk about this a lot, that control. And the word surrender to me is that, all tapping into that feminine and just, fully delving into your intuition and like soul led of just what is needed instead of just what's up here of knowing what's needed. It's a real challenge. But if I was to look at how far I've come in like 6 to 8 months, there's been a big shift there in terms of balancing a bit more.
So, like, what would, because you're on your way, right? Like you said, it's already, you're already noticing shifts and changes, and you're already seeing the benefits, like you are doing all those things. What's still missing?
I think, like I said, it's the like natural surrender piece and the embodying. Like I feel this like, and it's the imposter that comes up again, is like, you need to be doing all these things. Not that I don't want to do them, but like I want to be able to encourage and inspire the people that I hold space for to do the same, because I see the benefits. But my biggest challenge is fully tuning in and like being soul led, you know, every day. Like I'm getting there. I know I'm getting there. I'm a lot more in tune, but, and I think maybe it's the perfectionism in me is like wanting to be there now, you know, like wanting to be there now. And yeah, it's the challenge of like, I need to surrender to allow myself to get there. But that's a challenge, being in that perfectionism, high achiever. Yeah. And I think now I just feel a pressure because I'm obviously starting to work with case studies, and I want to be, you know, be able to be present and embody and model that to my clients. But then I also know that like they need to see a real human who is on the journey as well to connect with. So yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's holding the two polarities there, isn't it?
Yeah. They're not looking for perfection. And in fact, when we look at those vulnerable parts of ourselves and we're accepting those, it sort of gives permission for other people to do that as well. Like it's actually a beautiful part of the process of becoming really good at this. It's got nothing to do with perfectionism, quite the opposite.
And it's funny you say that, because I know in my soul that like being vulnerable and open like this, that's how people connect with you, and that's going to draw people to want to work with me. And I know that's been a strength in how I've built rapport and relationships in my everyday life. But I think it's like just maybe this imposter, because it's like a career path that I need to have control over that, if that makes sense. Like, because maybe because I've never, like, my previous career was almost forced. So because this doesn't feel forced, that's what I'm having a challenge with, the surrender. I'm going around in circles here. Yeah. It's like surrendering in every aspect of life. And just, yeah, accepting those parts of me, not trying to change them.
So maybe you have to live into another question.
Maybe I have to what? Sorry?
Maybe you have to live into another question. You know, we talked about perfectionism and how can I show up in, you know, as my best self, and how can I make sure that I'm taking charge of my career. Maybe you can live into a more powerful question, because questions are powerful. questions can be such a an empowering place to come from, or they can be disempowering. You know, they can make you feel like you're fighting for something that's just a goal that is unreachable. But they can also help you live into something quite exponential. So I wonder if there is a more powerful question to live into that becomes the quest.
Yeah, it's like it's that like it's just like letting go of all of those previous, like I'm literally like shedding so many layers. Yeah, that it's overwhelming. It's like you're not, and again, not controlling that. Like you talk about all the time that people, it's easier to stay stuck with knowing, even if it feels unsafe or not great, because what's happening, and so you can control it because it's the same vicious cycles. But yeah, with this, it's just because it's unknown in almost every aspect. Yeah, I guess I am surrendering because I'm allowing that to happen. Yeah, just switching the way I view that. That's fully just flipped the way I view surrender as well. Like I am surrendering in so many aspects. And again, just being so hard on myself, like for the areas that I think that I'm not. Well, that was like a full circle. Yeah, I know how incredible this work is, having experienced it myself. I still feel like, I just struggle with the thought of going into a session and not controlling it, because that's what I've always had to do, and that's exciting, and it's so scary at the same time, because again, like I said, I'm obviously learning to surrender by doing all of this and letting my life unfold in a totally different way. But yeah, it's just surrendering in all aspects. Sorry, I'm just going around in circles here.
No, I'm wondering, you brought up surrender. I wonder what would happen if, instead of expecting yourself to be okay with surrendering all the time, because that can be a challenge, right? Sometimes it's going to be harder to surrender than others, because we still have things that we work on, like all this stuff all this transformation is, I always say it's spiral. It's not, you know, you're not going from A to B. We're going that way. You know, you're saying you're walking in circles. Well, we kind of are, you know, we're making sense
Yeah.
of ourselves. And sometimes surrender is harder and sometimes it's easier. It just depends on the situation. I wonder what it would feel like to lean into trust and trusting instead.
That would feel a lot safer. Yeah, it would feel a lot safer, especially just connecting with that word, obviously. Feels a lot safer for me.
So I mean, trust can mean a lot of different things. Like we can lay trust in ourselves. We can trust the process. We can trust something beyond ourselves, depending on how we see our place in the universe. You know, we can trust in something beyond ourselves if that feels right for you. So we can lean into trust in lots of different ways that ultimately fits our beliefs and our values and where we're at.
Yeah, like I said, that feels safer for me, and that, like, my mindset or my awareness or just that trust in, you know, my higher self, that things are happening for me. I've definitely shifted that whole perspective of, like, not victim, but things are happening at me, or, you know, it's about things are happening for me. And especially like with this, like coaching with you, so many things now that I've shifted that perspective is the things that have popped up for me at the right times. Like, this happened for me at the exact right moment in terms of my worthiness piece around feeling like I'm unheard. And so speaking, you know, having concerns of when I hold space for clients of like feeling like I need to speak too much and not being able to hold that space and that silence. And that was a really like icky feeling for me for a bit. And then this popped up at the exact right moment. And I was like, that really reinsured that trust of like, no, things are happening for me to work through whatever's limiting me or holding me back. So again, that moves back into that trust and surrender that the right things will happen at the right times to allow me to, I guess, build that trust in myself and everything around me.
A year ago, I went to America and I had the opportunity to drive a Porsche car. And someone told us the story because a lot of us were really nervous to jump in a $250,000 car because of the fear of wrecking the car. And someone asked one of the drivers or one of the coaches, how come you can put so much trust in us to drive around on this track and trust that we won't wreck it? And the answer was, we don't put the trust in you. We put the trust in the car. So you don't have to trust that you've got it all. You have to trust the process. The process is your car. You don't have to have it. Trust your car, the process.
And I have no reason not to trust it, you know, especially now that, like I said, the right things are dropping or happening, or the learnings that I'm getting from challenging moments. There's nothing that's stopping me from trusting that process at all.
So what would it feel like to live into that question? What would it feel like to just 100% trust the process?
It would feel freeing and empowering and really allow me to just go for it, you know, kind of release those doubts, or those things that are limiting me, because I have no reason to not trust it with what's been happening, even though there's challenging moments, the learnings and the reflections and being the trust in I can move through them compared to potentially how I used to perceive them. Those challenges, yeah, there's no reason not to trust the process, and to, yeah, the feeling that gives me is like encouragement and freeing and empowering and surrender.
Surrender to the process.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of like a flower or a seed ultimately is going to stretch towards the sun. It's just what it does. You can try and stop it. You can try and make it not do that. But the minute it sees the sun, it's going to want to move towards it. A human naturally wants to move towards its greatest potential. You can try and stop it, but it will never be stopped, because the minute you let go of it, it's going to grow towards it. So your client is always going to move towards their greatest potential. Just trust the process. It's part of the process. There's nothing you can do to stop that from happening. You can try, but you won't. So you can't do anything wrong, because all you're wanting is to hold space to move for your client to move towards their highest potential, which is a given anyway. And that's the process.
It's just magic, and especially because I'm on the other side, like the metaphors you're using there, and I've just moved through that, you know. So hard to just go, oh, yeah, it's magic. And it's just like, it's so exciting to like know that you get to support people through this process, you know, and that they'll remember you for that. Not, you know, just, I always think about like a fully shift, and I'm going emotional, of like the impact that you have on the world. And it's just, when you step into that, like knowing that that's the impact that you're going to have, because I know that's the impact that people have had for me. Yeah, it's really, really empowering. It's like you obviously feel the impact for yourself and how amazing it is, and not just the effect that it'll have on them, but their people around them. Holding that space, it's pretty special. Yeah, just really excited. And to not feel like anything will be forced or, like I said, needs to be controlled. Because I have no reason not to trust the process for myself and for others.
It's always enough.
Mm-hmm. It really is. Like, I trust in the things that like the right people will come to you at the right moments, and there's no fear there in the control piece around attracting, you know, clients, or it's just feeling, yeah, that doubt was there, feeling like I'm enough for them, you know, to be able to move them towards the sun. But yeah, like you said, there's no reason for them not to be. I'm just helping facilitate that process no matter what I do.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting, right? Because it's easy to get into our head that it's got a lot to do with us when we're working with a client. It's got to do with me, right? And in a roundabout way, yes, it does, because we got to do our own inner work. But on the other hand, it's got nothing to do with us at all. Like, we have to actually remove ourselves from the equation completely, because it's not about us at all.
That's been a good feeling too, like that, you know, looking into the counter transference and knowing like when things trigger you, to be able to like notice it, acknowledge it, and then really remember like this process isn't about you right now. You're just the facilitator. And to be able to tap back into holding that space has been really, yeah, reassuring. Again, it's not about you in that moment, but it's just probably more, like you said, in the head space leading up to it, of,
Yeah.
again, the unknown. Yeah, you go into that head making it about you. But I know in that moment when I am working with people, it isn't about me. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, and it's all about the process. And then there's this other part, which may feel like it's connected because we can't separate it. But you mentioned the idea of feeling like I am enough, like I am doing enough. And sometimes we confuse the two, thinking that that part is, connected to this other thing, whilst actually it's two different processes. One process is trusting the process of what's happening with our client. And then we got this other thing that we need to work on, which is the reminder that my enoughness is completely separate from my need to please a client or a person or a situation or anything like that. Like, that's something that I need to work on, to remind myself that I am enough.
Yeah. And it's almost like I'm obsessed with that now. Like when the blinkers are open and you see how much you've said bad things or not valued yourself or your worth and that you are enough, it's like, it's hard. I feel like there's always work to do with that, but it's hard not to keep going for it. Like you talk about, I just finished module 8, and to make sure that, you're continuing that work for yourself and you're continuing your personal development. Like, I feel like, yeah, I just know that can never stop, because at the end of the day, like, I can't give or facilitate anything for anyone else if I'm not doing that for myself. But yeah, it's still obviously there, but it's all part of the process.
Yeah. So going back to looking at being busy, Ali being busy, Ali having her to-do list and making sure that it gets ticked off, and it never is ticked off because there's always another thing that ends up on the list, and I need to keep going and I need to move forward. Can you see a relationship between that energy and the need to feel enough? Yeah.
Very much so.
So
it's curious. Incredible. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, no, Now say what you wanted to say.
Oh, I was only going to say, and just my awareness of this is like how much my child's my biggest teacher. Like in that moment of talking about surrender, and like with her being sick, like, yes, she loves to still play and everything, but there was moments where like Locke and I were like, we need to get outside, let's take her, you know, just for a beach walk, whatever, and she didn't want to go. And it's like, oh, but you need to get out. And we were making it all about us, when like she was fully showing us, no, that's not what I want to do. And they're so in tune with themselves in that way of like, I'm going to rest when I need to rest. And that was just such a big reflective piece for me there, of how much she's my teacher and how much I don't want to, I guess, it is about me, but not project, like, you know, condition her in any way of being, you know, busy. Or yeah, she was just my biggest teacher in that moment of surrender and listen to your body.
Yeah.
Especially when it really needs that rest. Yeah.
Mm.
And like teaching me that I am enough to listen to myself too, you know, like, yeah, and that counterplay between like arguing that, like I was saying at the start, like my head was saying, no, do all this, but really just surrendering to what I needed in that moment, and that was honoring myself.
Mm.
Mm.
Children can be extremely wise. You know, they're sometimes just more connected to the truth than what we are, because you know we've all got our glasses on. Their glasses are newer, so they can see things. So you know we can ask our kids too. Hey, if you see mommy needing a rest, will you tell me? Can you help me to notice when I need a rest and I'm not taking time out, or however you want to put that to your child in her words? Help her to help you. Give her permission.
Mm. Yeah, she's incredible like that. Like, you know, just reading body language. Like we talk
Mm.
about the power of body language and facial expressions. And yeah, I'm reading about the whole brain child, you know, connecting that emotional side to that logical side. And she'll just look at me in moments when I am obviously thinking about the to-do list, you know, trying to put her clothes on to get out the door. And she'll go, are you happy? And you're just like, fuck. She's seeing like the stress in me, you know, like I'm not saying, we might be talking about a book or something, or I'm like, and like just the way I'm doing things or in my body language. And she's like, are you happy? And I was like, what makes you think, do you think I'm happy? And she's like, no, you know, and just like allowing you to pause in that moment and really reflect on how you're feeling, like tuning in. It's like, oh my God. So yeah, that's such a good point. Like actually allow her to teach me too. And yeah, even though she does, I probably don't tell her how much she does.
Yeah. You know, there's nothing wrong about being upset or you know, being snappy sometimes. But I think it's really empowering to say, hey, yeah, you're right. I am in a bit of a bad mood at the moment, and I'm sorry. I'm letting that go out on you. And thank you for noticing, because I didn't even realize that I did that. You know, like that is affirming that, hey, we're not perfect. I'm certainly not perfect, and nor do you need to be. Like no parent is perfect, right? So we're not leaning into the question of how can I be more perfect? How can I do a better job? We're leaning into trusting that we've got this, trust in ourselves, trust in the process, trusting that you're enough when you're being honest and real. about where you're at in your progress, knowing that will never be done.
Absolutely. Yeah, and like I said earlier, it's like I know that, and that's what I feel drawn to, just being me and just sharing that always. But yeah, you just put on this facade, especially in front of your kids sometimes, that you think, you don't want them to think that you're stressed, but they see it. Like, they see it without you saying anything. Yeah. Yeah. And just being vulnerable and sharing with them. I know the value in that. Like, I've seen that in working with my own kids in school and everything. And there's nothing that needs to change, even with their age. Like, they're so wise at such a young age. Yeah. Gosh. I just love this work.
Mm-hmm. Take that in and really ground that energy you're feeling right now. That's beautiful.
So empowering. Like, it's and so in tune, and just feeling I've never had before, and I just never knew I could have, you know. So exciting that you can help others move into this. That's pretty amazing.
Mm.
So funny, I come into each one of these sessions and I'm like, what's going to be brought up today? Like, I can't think. I did it last time. I was like, felt a bit anxious, you know, of feeling uncomfortable. I don't know, but just the wisdom and the empowerment from the learnings is just, so reaffirming of how incredible this work is.
Mm. So really make that real for you, as it is amazing. The work is amazing. You're right. And allow yourself to feel the amazingness of the work just for you. That being close to tears because you're feeling the beauty of this amazing work, which reminds you that, this is something that you're going to do. But before that, allowing yourself to ground yourself in that energy and allow it to be just for you, nobody else. It's when that cup is full, it spills over.
So
Yeah.
fully.
Yeah. Yes. That cup spills over and it will touch other people. But it's really leaning in and grounding that energy inside of you, noticing that expansiveness from knowing the power of the work, feeling it.
Like you said, that as soon as you said that filling of the cup, like, and that overfilling, there was so much like scarcity and creating boundaries and, starting to say no. And I'm seeing that overflow now. Like, I was so afraid that I was going to get pushback, especially from family, of like them thinking that I'm not there for them anymore. But the overflow of it. Yeah, I think I spoke about my mum in the first session and being in a really dark place herself. And I just can't believe the trickle-on effect that I've had from honoring myself and grounding in that, to just my presence when I'm around these people and how that helps them.
It's like, you know, there's the cliche of once one little thing changes, everything changes, right? You're changing the ingredient in something. My brother used to be a chef, and he said there's one way to get everybody to love your sauce, and it's to add a little bit of sugar in it. The minute you add sugar, people are going to come and tell you, that was the most amazing sauce I've ever tasted. They don't know why, but it's because of the sugar. So what you're doing is you're sprinkling some sugar into it. They don't know why they feel better. They don't know why something's changed. You do. But they don't. And they don't need to. They feel it. They experience it.
They literally feel it. My mum said to me, she's like, it's in the space of a few weeks. I just love being around you at the moment. Like, there's such a calming presence about you, and like just never have said something like that. And I was like, yeah, I could feel that energy when I'd been with her that last time. So it was just really nice to have that reaffirmed in words of affirmation. Yeah.
The power of the cup overflowing.
So special.
So what are you taking away with you today?
Trusting the process. And just that I am enough, you know, that I've to really just be mindful of when I'm, in my head, and the knowing, come back to the knowing, and that I do know how to tune into myself. You know, I came in at the start of this saying, I want to be able to tune into myself better and like really listen to that. But I am, you know, I can get caught up in the head part, but I am. And there's no reason not to trust the process, because everything that's been unfolding, there's no reason to be. No reason to not trust it.
Yeah. If it feels right for you, as we're closing this call, I reckon you might want to grab a pen and paper and write from this space of your wise self. Not to share it with anybody, really. You can just keep it for yourself. But I think that would be a really beautiful thing to do. Don't analyze what you're writing, just write from that space. Don't even think about what you're writing. Just write automatically. Let your pen do it. And write for however long you want to. 5, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, doesn't really matter. I think it would be a really powerful process for you.
Yeah, I do too. Definitely. While I'm in this energy. Thank you.
Thank you, Ellie.